Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Simone once again from Floral Park Memorial High School. I'm here for our very brief overview from 1800 to 1848 for the APUSH history exam. Always reminding you that we will be going into tremendous depth as the year goes on. So let us begin. Time period 4 begins with the election of Thomas Jefferson in 1800. He defeated John Adams. This was a controversial election. I'll go into detail on that when we learn about the Electoral College. But it represented a shift in political philosophy. So John Adams was a Federalist and Thomas Jefferson was a Democratic Republican. But the major achievement of the Jefferson presidency was the purchase of Louisiana in 1803 from the French. However, there was controversy with this decision because the Constitution does not specifically say that the president is allowed to buy land. Now, it also doesn't say that he can't. So what Jefferson did is he interpreted the Constitution loosely. However, prior to being president, he had held a strict interpreter view of the Constitution. And that's where some people kind of thought that he was being a little bit hypocritical. But we'll explore that later on. Nevertheless, you can see from the map just how much land we acquired as a result of this purchase and what it did for the country. Now, the other issue that Jefferson was dealing with as the third president was impressment. This is when foreign countries were attacking our ships, kidnapping our sailors. So impressment becomes a major foreign policy crisis for the very young United States. Ultimately, it's going to be settled with a war against the British once again. So this War of 1812, some people refer to it as the Second American Revolution. Some people call it the Second War for Independence. But it is a war between the United States and Great Britain. And when we learn about it in detail, it'll be up to you to decide, do you think the United States won the war? Do you think the United States lost the war? Or do you think it was a stalemate? Regardless of your view, the following time period, which is referred to by a Boston reporter as the era of good feelings, is one of very much intense feelings of patriotism and nationalism. But the term really refers to the fact that there was only one political party in America at this time. And it was the Democratic Republican Party. And our president was James Monroe. So during the era of good feelings, we are able to issue the Monroe Doctrine, which was America really sending a message that we would like to be heard on the foreign scene. So we were telling European nations, you're not welcome in the Western Hemisphere anymore. You need to stay out. Whether or not we had the authority or the power to enforce it will be the debate in class. The other great achievement during this time is that of early industrialization. So this man, Henry Clay, who was a congressman who you will learn a lot about, he really encouraged the building of infrastructure. He wanted roads and bridges and canals. He just wanted America to start to modernize. His call for infrastructure coincided with economic changes that were taking place. No longer were people making goods exclusively at home. Now we're starting to build up factories in America. And that only accelerates the modernization and industrialization of the country. Now, of course, we have a long way to go, but this is when it really starts to emerge. Now, what ended the era of good feelings, you might ask? It would be this very controversial election in 1824. Once again, when I teach you about the Electoral College, I'll go into more detail. But all four of these candidates from the Democratic Republican Party, Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams, William Crawford, Henry Clay, none of them won the election the first time around. Jackson had 99 Electoral College votes. John Quincy Adams had 84. William Crawford had 41, and Henry Clay had 37. Now, the Constitution stipulates that the candidate must win a majority of the votes. So since I believe if you add those numbers up, it's 262, don't make fun of me if I'm wrong, you need to get a majority, and Jackson didn't have that. So now the election gets thrown into the House of Representatives, and they can only select from the top 3 candidates. So we have to cancel out Henry Clay to begin with. However, he conveniently was a member of the House of Representatives. He was actually the Speaker of the House. So he made a deal, allegedly, with John Quincy Adams. And he said, if you make me your Secretary of State, I will get you elected. So why would he want to be Secretary of State? That was the position that was viewed as the springboard to the presidency one day. Thomas Jefferson was Secretary of State. He became president. James Madison, James Monroe, and even John Quincy Adams. So it's called the corrupt bargain. How much corruption there was, I don't think any of us would really know. But what I'd like you to remember is that Jackson felt cheated, as his followers did, and that's really what ends the era of good feelings and leads to the age of Jackson. So we will learn a decent amount about his presidency, but also the impact that he had on democracy and on the country as a whole during this time period. So there's not a lot of time periods that historians refer to by the name of a president, and Jackson is one of them. And we will finish with the cultural changes and the shifts in American thinking during this 1800 to 1848 time period. So I would say the dominant issue would be abolition. Once we learn about slavery and the political and economic and social impact of slavery, there were many people who fought against it. So the abolitionist movement will be one of these major reforms. Women are also going to be fighting for rights, and they actually hold their own convention in upstate New York called the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848. But you also see cultural changes, such as the first, generation of American authors. Prior to this, it was all British authors in America. Now we have the emergence of actually American authors for the first time. We have people that just want to live on their own, with their own rules and societal norms. So they create these utopian communities. And hopefully you remember that there was a great awakening during the colonial era, but now there's going to be a second great awakening, another movement for religious revival. But at this time, newer religions are going to emerge. And the Transcendentalists are just a group of thinkers and philosophers. I always struggle to really identify it, but people like Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, who are questioning and really asking people to ponder their place in society, the role that nature plays in their life. I probably didn't even explain that well, but I'll do a better job when we do an activity on it in class. So that's the 1800 to 1848 time period in a very brief overview. If you are interested in the presidents, there they are. And if you're not interested in them, I guess that's okay as well. But I told you I'd love to see if we can get a lot of you to remember them all in order. That just would be a fun little thing for you to be able to do. So that's my time period 4. Now I'm going to go back and work on time period 5, and I will see all of you in class. Take care.